Welcome back to Raul Effect. Today we're uncovering why one personality type has the unique ability to reach an avoidant in ways most people never can, and how genuine understanding, emotional stability, and healthy boundaries can slowly transform even the strongest emotional defenses. What if the one thing an avoidant fears the most isn't intimacy, but finally being understood? While most people accidentally strengthen an avoidant's emotional walls, one rare personality type has a way of making those walls feel unnecessary. In this video, you'll discover why the super empath affects avoidance so differently, and how emotional safety can succeed where pressure always fails. Among all the people an avoidant may encounter, there is one personality that often unsettles them more than any other: the super empath. While many people try to break through an avoidance walls by chasing, convincing, or demanding emotional closeness, the super empath takes a completely different approach. They understand what those walls are protecting, and that quiet understanding can weaken defenses that have survived for years. Most people see an avoidance distance as rejection. The super empath sees fear hiding behind emotional detachment. Where others feel abandoned, the super empath recognizes someone trying to protect themselves from emotional overwhelm. That single difference changes everything. When avoidant partners pull away, many people respond from their own attachment wounds. They become anxious, frustrated, or desperate for reassurance. Unfortunately, those reactions reinforce the avoidant's deepest belief that relationships are emotionally unsafe. Every attempt to chase them often convinces them they need even stronger boundaries. The super empath responds differently. They stay connected to their own emotions while also understanding what the avoidant is experiencing internally. They don't assume the withdrawal is a reflection of their worth. Instead, they recognize it as a coping strategy shaped by fear, old wounds, and self-protection. This isn't emotional detachment. It's empathy paired with healthy emotional balance. When an avoidant creates distance, expecting conflict or pursuit, the super empath offers something they rarely experience: acceptance without pressure. Instead of demanding answers, they may calmly say, "It seems like you need some space right now. That's okay. I'll be here when you're ready." That simple response interrupts the avoidant's usual pattern because it removes the pressure they expected. The super empath understands that emotional withdrawal is often regulation rather than rejection. Many avoidants retreat because their nervous system feels overloaded, not because they no longer care. While others interpret that retreat as abandonment, the super empath sees it as an attempt to regain emotional balance. Because of that understanding, they remain emotionally available without becoming emotionally demanding. They don't chase, but they also don't punish the avoidant with silence or resentment. Their warmth stays consistent, and over time that consistency begins to challenge the avoidant's beliefs about relationships. Avoidants often expect distance to create arguments, guilt, or emotional pressure. When none of those reactions appear, their usual defense no longer works. That unexpected experience creates internal conflict, making it harder to rely on old protective habits. Another strength of the super empath is their ability to notice what isn't being said. They pay attention to subtle facial expressions, body language, tone of voice, and small behavioral changes that reveal emotions hidden beneath the calm exterior. While others only hear, "I'm fine," the super empath notices tired eyes, tense shoulders, or moments of vulnerability that quickly disappear. Because they recognize these quiet signals, they respond to the real emotion instead of the words alone. If an avoidant insists they don't need help but clearly seems overwhelmed, the super empath offers support gently, without making them feel incapable or dependent. Their communication style is equally important. They know avoidants are highly sensitive to anything that sounds controlling or demanding. Instead of saying, "You never open up to me," they might say, "I'd love to understand your thoughts whenever you feel ready to share." The message stays the same, but the delivery feels safe instead of threatening. The super empath naturally expresses care without creating pressure. They show interest without interrogating. They offer help without trying to take control. This allows the avoidant to lower their guard gradually, rather than feeling forced to defend themselves. Conflict is another place where this difference becomes obvious. Many people want immediate answers and emotional engagement during disagreements. Avoidants often become overwhelmed and withdraw because their nervous system goes into protection mode. The super empath understands this isn't always avoidance of responsibility, it is often emotional overload. Instead of forcing the conversation to continue, they create room for both people to regulate. They might calmly suggest taking a break and returning to the discussion later when emotions have settled. This prevents the avoidant from feeling trapped and keeps the conversation from becoming another painful experience. Perhaps the greatest strength of the super empath is emotional stability. Most partners ride an emotional roller coaster, feeling anxious when the avoidant pulls away, relieved when they return, and frustrated by the cycle. The super empath remains grounded throughout it all. That steadiness becomes something unfamiliar yet deeply comforting to the avoidant. They begin to experience a relationship where emotional closeness doesn't come with pressure, guilt, or demands. For someone who has spent years expecting relationships to feel overwhelming, that consistency can be life-changing. This doesn't mean the super empath has no needs or emotions. They absolutely do. The difference is that they know how to manage those feelings without making someone else responsible for fixing them. They can feel hurt, disappointed, or uncertain while still responding with maturity instead of panic. That emotional balance becomes one of the few things capable of slowly dissolving the defenses an avoidant has relied on for most of their life. The super empath can want a deeper connection without turning that desire into pressure. They don't expect instant intimacy or force emotional closeness before the avoidant is ready. Because of that, the avoidant experiences something completely unfamiliar, a relationship where their usual defenses no longer serve a purpose. The super empath stays emotionally present without becoming overwhelming. They respect boundaries without becoming distant. They manage their own emotions instead of expecting the avoidant to carry them. As a result, the avoidant doesn't feel the constant need to withdraw for safety, create distance to protect their independence, or shut down to escape emotional responsibility. This creates an unexpected inner conflict. The avoidant has spent years preparing for criticism, emotional pressure, and conflict. They brace themselves for conversations that never become attacks, expect demands that never arrive, and anticipate guilt that simply isn't there. Their familiar survival strategies suddenly have nothing to defend against. Slowly, something begins to change. Because the super empath doesn't chase after every withdrawal, the avoidant starts noticing the absence and feels motivated to reconnect on their own. Because they're never forced to talk about their feelings, they begin sharing them voluntarily. Because no one is trying to fix or change them, they gradually stop guarding themselves so intensely. This shift happens so naturally that it doesn't feel like a threat to their independence. Instead, they begin looking forward to spending time with the super empath because the relationship feels peaceful rather than exhausting. Instead of associating closeness with pressure, they begin connecting it with comfort, acceptance, and emotional relief. Another reason this bond becomes so powerful is that the super empath recognizes the avoidant's unique way of expressing love. While many people expect affection through emotional conversations or constant reassurance, avoidants often communicate love through quiet actions. They remember small details, solve practical problems, show up when it matters, and offer consistent support even if they struggle to express emotions directly. The super empath notices these gestures instead of overlooking them. They appreciate the effort behind the actions, allowing the avoidant to feel understood instead of criticized. Feeling valued for who they truly are reduces the need to hide behind emotional distance or prove their independence. The super empath also sees beyond the avoidant's confident exterior. Most people only notice the self-sufficient, emotionally controlled version they present to the world. The super empath recognizes the sensitive, caring, and vulnerable person hidden underneath those protective layers. They acknowledge quiet acts of kindness, recognize emotions that aren't spoken aloud, and appreciate qualities the avoidant often overlooks within themselves. For many avoidants, this becomes one of the first experiences of feeling genuinely seen. Others admire the mask of strength. The super empath connects with the real person beneath it. That kind of acceptance gently challenges the belief that vulnerability is dangerous or that emotional walls are always necessary. Timing is another strength that makes the super empath different. They instinctively sense when the avoidant is ready to move closer and when they genuinely need space. They don't rush intimacy or disappear when distance appears. Their ability to respect emotional rhythms creates a level of trust the avoidant may have never experienced before. As that trust grows, the avoidant begins lowering their own defenses, not because someone demanded it, but because it finally feels safe. The super empath never forces growth. They understand that lasting change happens slowly. Rather than expecting dramatic breakthroughs, they celebrate small moments of openness, brief expressions of vulnerability, and gradual progress without placing extra attention or pressure on those moments. Their patience isn't passive. They continue living a full and meaningful life while allowing the relationship to unfold naturally. They know that trying to speed up the process would only reactivate the avoidance fears and strengthen old defensive patterns. Over time, the avoidant develops a deeper kind of trust. Not simply believing someone won't leave them, but trusting that they can be imperfect, uncertain, and emotionally vulnerable without losing love or acceptance. That foundation allows genuine intimacy to grow. As those lifelong defenses slowly soften, parts of the avoidant that have remained hidden for years begin to return. They rediscover affection, emotional closeness, and even their own need for support. These parts no longer feel threatening because they are emerging in a relationship that consistently feels emotionally safe. The effects often extend beyond the relationship itself. Learning to trust one person deeply helps the avoidant become more emotionally available with friends, family, and other important relationships. They begin realizing that while their defenses once protected them, those same defenses have also kept them from experiencing deeper connection throughout life. This transformation rarely happens overnight. Avoidants don't suddenly become completely secure or emotionally expressive. Instead, they slowly become more comfortable with vulnerability, more open to intimacy, and less dependent on old protective habits. They still value independence and personal space, but they no longer rely on emotional distance as their primary form of safety. The reason the super empath's approach is so effective is simple. Instead of attacking the avoidance defenses, they create an environment where those defenses are no longer necessary. Most people try to tear down the walls. The super empath quietly builds enough safety that, little by little, the walls begin to disappear on their own. This kind of relationship creates a powerful opportunity for healing, not because someone is trying to fix the avoidant, but because they consistently experience emotional safety. Instead of relying only on therapy or deliberate self-improvement, the avoidant gradually learns through everyday interactions that closeness doesn't always lead to pain. Their nervous system begins to realize that expressing emotions can be safe. Vulnerability doesn't automatically lead to rejection, and intimacy can strengthen a relationship instead of threatening it. Over time, the relationship becomes an example of secure attachment in action. The super empath shows, through their own behavior, that emotions don't have to become overwhelming, boundaries don't have to create distance, and love doesn't require constant proof or perfect emotional responses. At the same time, the super empath must protect their own well-being. Their role is never to rescue or heal the avoidant. Their responsibility is simply to create an environment where healing becomes possible. They continue honoring their own needs, maintaining healthy boundaries, and staying emotionally grounded while offering consistency and understanding. This balance is essential. If the super empath sacrifices themselves or becomes emotionally responsible for the avoidance growth, the relationship can slip into unhealthy codependency. True support comes from remaining compassionate without losing your own identity. That level of balance requires emotional maturity, self-awareness, and strong personal boundaries. For many avoidants, meeting someone like this becomes a life-changing experience. It's often the first relationship where their usual protective habits no longer feel necessary or even useful. That experience alone can reshape how they approach future relationships, even if the relationship itself doesn't last forever. An avoidant's greatest challenge isn't simply opening up. It's believing that they can be accepted without having to protect themselves. When someone offers patience, emotional stability, and genuine understanding while maintaining healthy boundaries, real change becomes possible. If this video gave you a deeper understanding of avoidant attachment, subscribe to Raul Effect, share your thoughts in the comments, and join us for the next video as we continue exploring the psychology behind healthy relationships and emotional growth.